how to act as a cultural safeguard against modernization and change. And they provide a sense of continuity and identity, reflecting the community's ability to adapt while maintaining core values and historical memory. And they hold this music and dance, they hold a symbolic significance, representing aspects of local life, social structure, and historical experiences. They also serve as an oral archive because when we talk about the northeastern region, I do believe I'm talking from aspect of the tribal groups. They don't have recorded versions of whatever they follow or they believe in, and so these music and dances, they act as an oral archive, so they preserve, which further preserves their history, their narratives, their legends, their myths, which are crucial for understanding the region's past. In short, when we talk about folk music and dance, they are very important to that of the region's cultural resilience, resistance, identity, and historical memory. They are a treasure trove of traditional language, community, community values, and historical significance, making them an essential part of the region's cultural heritage. Folk music and dance in Northeast India are dynamic, they are ever evolving, and so they are very much influenced by how global styles and international music industry perform and how these modern fusion genres together blend in with traditional elements. Thus, it leads to an innovative expression that keeps folk tradition relevant in the global context. Folk music and dances are also essential to um, uh, rituals and ceremonies. They are very much essential to their rituals and the follow in their beliefs, such as the festivities and religious observances, reinforcing communal bonds and spiritual practices. They represents gender roles, cultural constructs of masculinity and femininity, while traditional performances reflecting historical gender roles and contemporary changes, challenging or redefining them. In summary, when we talk about the folk dances and music in Northeast India, they are very much vibrant and evolving cultural heritages, and they are shaped by global influences, and yet mingled with traditional roots and community values, and continue to play a significant role in shaping the Northeastern identity, culture, and society. Colonial encounters, how the northeastern states encounter with that of the British era. How do they live in on those era, and how do they overcome that aspect? So British colonial rule in the Northeast India, I do believe, happened in 1826 to around 1947, and they had a profound impact on the region, leading to cultural shifts and identity transformations through the imposition of Western education, language, and religion. Economic and political domination with the British East Indian Company exploited the natural resources of the northeastern state for their own benefit. So this division among ethnic groups are created by colonial policies per se, the divide and rule, and the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation in 1873, which restricted movement and created tensions. The formation of ILP began there in Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation. So thus the tricks and tales of the Britishers using the divide and rule policy even happened in the northeastern region. Overall, when we talk about them, the British colonialism had a profound and lasting impact on the cultural, economic, political, and religious landscape of the northeastern India. So during the colonial era, Northeast India experienced, next please, the imposition of new languages. For example, we have the English, we have the script of the Romans. When we talk from the northeastern states, I do believe we follow the Roman script and the educational systems which replace the traditional knowledge system, which is oral by nature. So the marginalization of co-opting of rich cultural heritage, including folk music, dance, and art by colonial forces did exist during the colonial era. So resistant movements such as the Hiraka movement, which is a social religious movement of the Jelangrong Nagas, And then this movement was started by Haipu Zadonang for the preservation of Zelangrong indigenous religion and culture. How forces of when forces of the English, the Britishers, they come and force in upon Christianity or be changes in certain thing, a certain individual fought for the preservation of their group, their religion, and their culture. and uh, mm, and we also have the Naga National Council, which was established to fighting for their own state indigeneity and their own freedom. So the legacy of colonialism continues to impact Northeast India today, with ongoing struggles related to that of language and education, cultural identity and heritage, the impact of historical marginalization and co-opting of traditional practices. The colonial era thus had a profound and lasting impact on Northeast India's cultural heritage and identity, with ongoing struggles and resistance movements shaping the region's history and contemporary landscape. Folk art and craft. We have mostly from the northeastern region, when we talk about their crafts and arts, we have the handloom system as the mostly benefited, I do believe, benefited work of art. And then they have bamboo making and the weaving process. These are all their work of art. The weaving, we don't they don't use tailoring as such, but the weaving and the production of all those materials are of great significance. It shows who they truly are. So craftsmanship in Northeast India is a very much important part, plays an important part in the region's cultural heritage, as it represents symbolism and storytelling through intricate designs and patterns, and how ritualistic and ceremonial significance, with crafts often used in religious and cultural ceremonies, are used, how they use all these elements, all these objects in their cultural practices or religious practices, and their crafts, how they identify with that of their regional identity and pride, with unique crafts specific to each tribe and region. So when talk about craft and arts, each tribe consists of different particular a particular work which in their wherein they are very much very good, and it signify a work of art signify that this person belong to this community and the other belong to the other community. So global influence and adaptation also began with that of their arts and crafts, with Northeast India craftsmanship inspiring traditional ways of life and traditional being as to how they used to live in the pre-modern era. And so these arts and crafts inspire even international designs and trends. And now, as we can see, that we prefer even more antique pieces like that of the olden days used crafts and art. So folklore and identity. Coming on to this, we have folk narratives in Northeast India encoding cultural identity and preserving collective memory and historical experiences. How do they do so? How do they encode such cultural identity? How do they preserve their memory? Is by narrating. As I have said earlier, Northeast India is home to no manuscripts in the past, but was a home to oral ways of life, oral walks of life. So thus, through the verbal usage of verbal usage, they passed on their culture or their narratives from generation to generation. So these narratives are tropes and motifs they shape self-perception and distinguish between in-groups and out-groups. When I talk about in-groups, we have, let's say, within the state of Manipur, we have different groups, like let's say the Kukis, the Nagas, and the Meiteis. So they are all within themselves. Also, they have within the Manipur state itself, they have even more dividend of tribal, non-tribal, and as such. And we have the outgroup example. We have Nagaland. Like we can talk about Nagaland and Manipur. How are they different to that of each other? So that is in-group and out-group when talk about. So how these narratives they define self-perception between the in-groups and the out-groups, and they allow for fluid identity through performance and reenactment, redefining cultural heritages. So they serve these narratives serve as a medium for identity formation, mediating individual and collective selves within cultural, historical, and social context. Folklore in Northeast India, they strengthen social bonds by sharing a common cultural language, promoting unity and belongingness. So they weave individual stories into a larger cultural fabric, connecting personal and collective identities. When mostly talk about Northeast states, when it's mostly collective, when they talk about identity, they don't mostly talk about an individual identity. They talk as a group, a social group's identity as such. That's identity to them, and how they use symbols and motifs as identity markers representing their cultural values and uniqueness. And how they even empower communities by celebrating their distinctiveness. How different are they from the other, and how they affirm their identity in face of external influences and forces. And they allow communities to dynamically redefine and renegotiate themselves and reflect on themselves, and how their cultural identities evolve with time and performance and retelling. Northeast folk identities, they are fluid, as stated before. They are fluid and dynamic. They change with time, and they defy fixed labels. They don't believe in certain fixed label that this is their identity, saying that this only this particular thing state that this is their identity. They defy the fixed labels, and they blur boundaries between tribes, cultures, and nation, because they are very much diverse in nature. They use, or they love the mixing, and the acceptance of culture and community is very rarely found. So they are hybrid and syncretic. When we a blend syncretic is a blend of two or more, or communities, how their culture blend together, indigenous tradition or even with that of external influences, and challenging cultural purity. They are shaped by stories of resistance against colonialism, imperialism, and cultural homogenization, highlighting marginalized communities' agency and resistance and resilience. In need of a decolonizing approach, they recognize and respect indigenous culture autonomy and epistemology, their beginning as such, and how diverse are they, and how they challenge dominant Western framework, how the Western frameworks or theoretical background, defying all odds when it comes to Northeastern region, as they're very much in connect to that of nature. And in summary, when we talk about Northeast identities, they are a complex, dynamic, ever-changing, resilient work shaped by a history of resistance and cultural exchange, requiring a decolonizing approach to respect and celebrate Indian diversity.